He again is probably the most athletic player on this team. And
why you would use that, especially when one call, just a horrible, horrible situation for them.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Welcome back to an all-new episode of TakeaSide. I'm your host, Max McElroy, joining you live from our studio. Before we get started, be sure to log on to sided.co or the Sided Debates app to post, comment, and engage in other debates on the site, earn points, and climb that leaderboard for a chance to win a $25 Amazon gift card. With playoffs starting soon in the NBA and the NHL, as well as the MLB just getting started, now's a great time to talk sports and start posting. For our first debate today, I am joined by Matt Minier and Brady Borgeli to discuss the NBA Western Conference. In what has been one of the crazier conferences in recent memory, there are about 9 teams fighting for the final few playoff spots and play-in spots. The Nuggets, Kings, and Grizzlies have all clinched the playoffs, while the rest is still up in the air. In this crazy conference, who do you think will represent the West in the finals? Matt, let's start with you.
I got 3 words for you, Brady. Light the beam, baby. I think this Kings team, I think they're ending their 20-something year playoff drought this year. They've already clinched the playoffs, and they're playing as well as anybody right now. They're sitting at the 3 seed right now. Could get up to the 2 possibly, but it's very unlikely, especially after losing yesterday to the Spurs. We won't talk about that. But they could have got within 1 yesterday if they would have won that game with the Grizzlies, who is your pick. But yeah, I really like this Kings team. They got the best offense in the league, averaging 121 points per game, and we've seen that their fans just show out at every home game. And I think they're gonna get at least in the first round, they're gonna be playing at home, which is gonna be huge for them.
I do love the Kings. I think they're a really good team and a really good story. I'm going to have to go with the Memphis Grizzlies as my pick to win the Western Conference. In my opinion, out of all the teams in the West, last year the Nuggets were pretty banged up. The Suns, they have a completely new roster. The Kings don't have much playoff experience. I think, honestly, even though they're a young core, the Grizzlies have more playoff experience than every team but the Warriors. And I think that's going to play a major factor in when it comes playoff time. Also, this team is led by a bunch of guys that really want it. You see quotes by Dylan Brooke, and they play hard. They go in every single night wanting to win, and I just see them making it out of the West.
Yeah, I do agree with your point that the Grizzlies do have more playoff experience. I mean, a lot of teams have more playoff experience than the Sacramento Kings. But I just look at these guys. I think their players just will just ball out. You have Domantas Sabonis averaging 19, 12, and 7. He's been a monster all season, having a great year with the Kings after being traded last year from the Pacers. You have De'Aaron Fox, who was a first-time All-Star, but also Sabonis was also a first-time All-Star. I'll mention that. Fox averaging 25, 4, and 6. I think that the Kings have the guys to go up with anybody in the Western Conference. You have like the Nuggets. I think Sabonis can match up with him, and you have Fox can go toe-to-toe with almost any point guard in the West, I think. So I think these Kings are going to be a tough out.
I love the Grizzlies because I think, honestly, they're the most complete team in the West, led by Ja Morant, obviously. But when he was out with his suspension, they were able to go 7-7 without him. Last year, he was hurt for a while, and they had a record like 22-5 against him. They went on some crazy run. Mm-hmm. They can win without their best player, and that's what I think is really, really important when it comes down to playoff times. I think guys like Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson, Dylan Brooks, who all average over 10 points a game. Desmond Bane's averaging around like 22 points a game. All these guys are going to step up in really important moments, and all these guys are keys to winning in the West, especially such a tough conference where I don't think all these teams have the role players that the Grizzlies do, and that's why I'm taking.
Yeah, I think one thing for both these teams is if they're going to advance is who they're going to play, because the play-in right now, the bottom of the not the bottom, like let's see, it's 5 through 10 right now in the West is just so close together. You have teams, let's say 6 teams separated by like 3 games. So I think right now, if the playoffs started today, the Kings would be playing the Golden State Warriors, which of course the Golden State Warriors are in the midst of a dynasty right now. They won it last year, but I think if the Kings were to play the Warriors, the Warriors have one of the worst road records in the league, 9 wins and 30 losses. That's only a few games better than some of the worst teams like the Spurs and the Rockets and the Pistons. So I think if they were to play the Warriors, I think they could possibly win that series against them. But like I said, it's just the West is so it's more top heavy, I'd say, than years past. It's not as strong as years past, but I think any of these teams could knock any of these teams off. So it'll be an important matchup for, I think, the Kings.
I do agree with you. I totally think that it's going to be completely matchup based on who's playing who. I mean, we can't tell who the Grizzlies are going to play because of the plan right now, but I just think because of their depth and their heart, especially from players like Dylan Brooks, who isn't the most popular at times, they just want to win more than any other team, and that's why I have them winning.
Yeah, right now, if the Lakers were to stay at the 7th seed, they would be playing the Grizzlies, and LeBron and AD, they're two of the best players in the league. So I mean, I think both of these teams have tough outs, but I think the Kings are the team out of the West that can come out even ahead of the Denver Nuggets and the Memphis Grizzlies. But it'll be an interesting playoff start in a couple of weeks, and we'll see what happens. We'll bring it to break.
Knocks it down from distance. MP's got 12, and a big question mark for MP.
Welcome back. Next up, we have Jordan Ziegler with his MLB division winner predictions. This past weekend, we obviously had the kickoff of the MLB season. Jordan, who's winning each division?
Yeah, it's my absolute favorite time of the year. I'm not even going to keep you guys waiting. I'm going to go right into it. Starting with the AL Central, I have the Guardians repeating Bieber, Quantrill, Seville, Plesac, McKenzie. That's a starting pitching rotation. I mean, that's arguably one of the best in the league, if not the best. You pair that with Clase and Karinchak coming out of the bullpen. You're lucky to score 4 runs off of this team. I mean, that's just one of the most solid teams you could possibly have pitching-wise. And then you look at Jose Ramirez, obviously their star player, WRC plus of 139 last year, WOBA of 320, not to mention he had an on-base percentage of 355 and a WAR of 6.2. Any WAR over 5 in the MLB is phenomenal. Any WAR over 6 is MVP caliber. Steven Kwan, Gold Glove winner last year, only a 9.4% K rate, contact percentage of 91.7%. When he swung the bat, he put it in play 90% of the time. That's ridiculous. This seems very loaded. The Twins and the White Sox could definitely make some noise in this division, don't get me wrong, but Cleveland's a sneaky 95+1 team. Moving on to the American League West, some people might call it a homer pick, given that I am from Washington, but I have the Seattle Mariners. Houston is obviously a really good team. They did lose Justin Verlander, though, so that pitching may have suffered a little bit. The Mariners, and this will be a theme with me throughout the entirety of my predictions, elite rotations get the job done, and the Mariners have one of those. Luis Castillo is a candidate to win Cy Young in the American League. George Kirby and Logan Gilbert are both super solid young pitchers. And then Robbie Ray, who is on the 15-day IL right now, should be back after that. Had one of the best spring trainings of his career. He's 2 years removed from winning a Cy Young Award. He's a 2-time All-Star, and right now he's projected as the Mariners' 4th arm in the rotation. Having a 2-time All-Star Cy Young Award winner as your 4th arm is ridiculous. Julio Rodriguez, one of the best young players in the entire league, possible MVP candidate. What he does on a baseball field is irreplaceable to a team. Not to mention you pair that with Teoscar Hernandez, their new pickup in right field, and Jared Kelenic, if he can just bat like 250 in left field, with A.J. Pollock on the Mariners bench right now. That is arguably the best outfield in the league. This Mariners team is secretly loaded, and no one is really talking about it. Next in the AL East, I have the New York Yankees. Again, another repeat division winner. Once again, starting rotation, when healthy, is the best in baseball. It's Garrett Cole, Carlos Rodon, Nestor Cortez, Luis Severino. I mean, all 4 of those arms are aces on pretty much every single other club, and that's their 1 through 4. Yeah, good luck. Aaron Judge had a 207 WRC plus last year and won an MVP award. That's the best player in baseball right now, besides Shohei Ohtani, because, you know, he pitches and hits. But Aaron Judge is easily the best hitter in baseball as it stands right now. Not to mention their bullpen has the best pitch composition according to StatCast in the entire league. They have the best vertical movement, best horizontal movement, up and down as a bullpen. When you move the ball and spin the ball like the Yankees do, it's almost impossible to hit them. So you have best starting rotation paired with one of the best bullpens. Once again, another team you're not going to score runs against, and they're going to score a lot of runs against you. Moving on to the NL, we start in the Central. This is probably the biggest layup of the entire prediction segment. The Cardinals, and really for reasons of the rest of the Central's not good. Okay? The Brewers maybe can give them a run for their money just because of how loaded their pitching staff is. But other than that, the Cardinals have one of the best lineups in the league. They have Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt. Paul Goldschmidt won MVP in the NL last year. That's ridiculous. Nolan Arenado is a perennial 10 WAR third baseman, which is also just nuts. Jordan Walker, who's a rookie on the team this year, has a chance to be a stud and probably would win Rookie of the Year in the NL if Corbin Carroll wasn't also a rookie. Their pitching is definitely the weakest part. Their starting pitching, I should say, is not great. Jack Flaherty, if he has a bit of a resurgence, can be really good. Adam Wainwright's a bit too old. Their bullpen is pretty solid, though. But once again, they're just not going to need to be that good to win the Central because, I mean, the Reds and Pirates are going to be bottom feeders. The Cubs are kind of a coin flip. They could be decent. They could be really bad. Time will tell. But Cardinals run away with that division pretty easily. Moving on to the West, something a little different. We got the Padres. They spent a lot of money in free agency, and I think it's going to pay off. Yu Darvish and Joe Musgrove and Blake Snell are obviously great arms in their rotation. Josh Hader is one of the best closers in baseball coming out of the bullpen. Xander Bogaerts, in my opinion, is the best shortstop in the MLB, especially just based on offense. He's a career 134 WRC plus player, and this doesn't matter, but already has a 309 WRC plus through the first series of the year. You have Manny Machado, who's the second best third baseman in the league behind Nolan Arenado. Fernando Tatis is coming back this year, one of the most exciting players in baseball. This team is just stacked through and through, really good pitching, really good rotation, and just an excellent offense. The Dodgers lost a lot of pieces and suffered some injuries in spring training, and they also don't have Walker Buehler this year coming off of Tommy John surgery. If any year is a year for a team besides the Dodgers to win the West, it's the Padres this year. Finally wrapping it up, I have the Mets, another team that just spent a ton of money in the offseason. Scherzer, Verlander, obviously the big headliners for that rotation. But Kodai Senga, who's a rookie this year, arguably has one of the best pitches in the MLB with what he calls his ghost splitter because the ball just disappears on you. It's absolutely ridiculous. I don't need to say much more about the Mets because of how good they are. And then to wrap things up, I'm going to say I think the Padres will face off against the Guardians in the World Series. And I think the San Diego Padres are going to win the World Series in 2023. That's all from me. To wrap up the show, we're going to have our NCAA basketball national championship predictions.
Good morning. Welcome to Slow Drip, everybody.
Tonight, UConn takes on San Diego State in the men's NCAA National Championship. In a tournament that had no number 1 seeds making it past the Sweet 16, these two teams made it out and will compete in the battle of the mid-majors. I am joined by Caleb Kalsich and Jackson Tennant to discuss the matchup and give their score predictions. Jackson, what are your thoughts for the game tonight?
Well, first of all, Caleb, I think it's really cool that we're seeing more parity in college basketball. I think the fact that you got teams like UConn and more specifically San Diego State making it in the championship game, it's cool to see, and I wonder if that's going to be a trend in the future. Like, Caleb, do you think that in the next couple of years we're going to see more mid-major, non-blue blood teams like represent in the championship game?
I do. I think the difference between seedings is slowly closing. I mean, in the past 5 years, we've seen 2 16 seeds beat the number 1. The last 3 years, 15 seeds made it to the Sweet 16.
Right.
So I think the whole, getting an upper seed is more now of getting a home court advantage than getting an easier team in the tournament, just because the skill gap is slowly closing between the whole 64-team field.
For sure, for sure. But yeah, in terms of the game, I think UConn's going to win. UConn's just the more complete team. They've been dominant the entire tournament. Their average points differential in the Big Dance has been 20.2 points. They're among the best offensive and defensive teams in the entire country. And there are 2 main players on UConn that I believe will take charge in the game. First being Adama Sanogo, averaging 20 points, 9.8 rebounds for the tournament. He'll be too much to handle against San Diego State. Jordan Hawkins, averaging 16 points. He's a shooter from the 3. He can fill it up. He has shown when he went 6 for 10 from 3 in the Elite Eight game against Gonzaga. Had a great showing against Miami as well. Because of the firepower UConn has and the momentum they have right now, it would be a huge upset if San Diego State were to win. And we've seen plenty of upsets. It's even an upset that San Diego State made it this far. UConn's just the better team. They can beat you in so many different ways.
You say that it's going to be an upset. This is a hard game for them. They beat Bama. They beat the number 1 overall seed. So it's not like they haven't done this before. And I think that the fact that so many people are already just saying UConn's got the easy path to win tonight is probably going to fuel them, and they're going to come out and play probably the best game they've played all season. As we saw against FAU, Lemon Butler sent them to the Natty on a last-second buzzer beater. I mean, it was a crazy finish, but Matt Bradley also carried that team for a long period of time, scored, I think, 12 of the 14 points when they went on a 14-0 run. So they have the ability to score, but they also have – their defense is okay, so they're going to have to control UConn from behind the arc for sure.
Definitely. And UConn, if we're talking about the defensive side of the ball, one of the reasons why UConn is so good is because they really are great defensively. They held Gonzaga to under 33% shooting from the field, held Miami to 34% shooting from the field. And because of that, it just makes them so dangerous on both sides of the ball. And when you add that with they can beat you in the half court and they can beat you in the full court, they can make defense turn into offense, they're just the better team.
They are, but as we've seen this whole tournament, the better team always doesn't win.
Right.
So, and it's one game. And UConn can have the worst game of the tournament tonight, and SDSU wins. But I think SDSU just has to play their game. They can't get to a point where they're trying to force things because, as we've seen before with teams that get this far, if they try to force things, it's over immediately. So I think it's going to be a good game. It's a 4v5 in the national championship, which I don't think any of us expected
Not at all.
to have when this tournament started. So I think it will be a good game.
It will be. And I think the only thing about San Diego State that I worry about is Nathan Mensah, who will probably match up with Sanogo. He's a really good defender for San Diego State, really good big man. But if he gets into foul trouble, they're toast. Because they have like Jaden Lee, I believe that's his name. He's a rotation big for San Diego State. I just don't see him giving UConn any problems offensively or defensively. Obviously, you have to worry about Sanogo being in foul trouble as well if you're UConn, but he's only averaged 2 fouls this entire season. Mensah's averaged 4 fouls per 40 minutes of play. So for me, UConn I don't see obviously if they don't play well, San Diego State has a chance. I mean, that's an obvious statement, but UConn has just dominated this entire field. I just don't see a roadblock hitting them right now.
No, they have, and they've used their height and advantage throughout this whole tournament, the teams they've played. But I'll go back to the Bama thing. SDSU beat Bama, who was also very tall and very athletic. They had to face Brandon Miller, who Brandon Miller didn't play great that game, but that's what they have to do. Maybe they have to key in on a key player for UConn. They have to figure out a way to force UConn to do things they're not used to. Maybe SDSU plays a different type of tempo. We'll see. I don't know. they got here. So that's the whole thing.
They
did. Anything can happen really in a national championship game.
Right.
It's not like, college football where the better team is usually going to win. This is basketball. Anything can happen on a given night.
I agree, but I also think for the championship game, it's usually the better team wins. In March Madness, when you have the round of 32, round of 64, it's anybody can win because you have multiple games to look forward to. But this is the final game of this entire tournament. It's two teams. One team's going away the championship, and we don't have basketball for the next 6 or whatever months it is. UConn, the better team, been better all year. Obviously, they had that roadblock in January. They lost 6 of 8. But since then, they've been playing the best basketball at anybody, again, on both sides of the ball. San Diego State, they cannot produce offensively the way UConn can. And when you combine UConn's defensive intensity, San Diego State, there's no outlet for them to gain momentum. There's no advantage that they have. UConn just outmatches them in every aspect of the game.
Yeah, I don't know. It's where you have a blue blood in the national championship, obviously.
Right.
So they're definitely experienced, have multiple experience being in this position. SDSU does not. I think that could hurt them tonight. But at the end of the day, SDSU got here, and I know it's weird to say they have nothing to lose, but they really don't. They're here. No one even expected them to get this far. So being second in the NCAA tournament is not their goal as they got here, but it's not the worst result they could have produced since getting in the tournament. So I think it's always hard to play a team when they don't have anything to lose. I think that's what SDSU is going to go in with the mindset tonight.
Well, I personally have UConn, and that's all we got, and we'll send it back to Max.
Thank you for tuning in to today's show. Be sure to follow us on social media, on Twitter and Instagram at TakeaSideKU. We will have show clips posted as well as other sided content. But from all of us here at TakeaSide, we'll see you soon.